And next up, our last one for the Entrepreneurial Computer Vision Challenge. It is Serena from EgoStitch. Come on up, Serena.
So today I'll be presenting our work on egocentric video summarization. My name is Serena. I'm a PhD student at Stanford, and my partner Alex is a postdoc also at Stanford. So our motivation for working on this is that we now have wearable cameras that can let us create vast amounts of personal video almost effortlessly. But at the same time, this also raises the new challenge of how can we actually efficiently browse and consume so much video. And a key answer to this, which is what we're trying to tackle, is how can we create video summaries in the form of either a few images or a short video that can maximize the content delivery per frame. So our approach to this, which we call ego stitching, is based on stitching together the content from multiple frames into a single frame in order to maximize the scene understanding. To illustrate this, here's an example of some frames from an egocentric video. And you can see that the camera follows the person's attention around from the laptop on the table to sometimes the friend sitting across the table, and then occasionally a quick glance around the cafe. So a video summary that simply selects frames from the original video would need a number of frames to convey all this information. But our ego-stitched frame on the right is able to combine all of this into a single frame that additionally provides a greater understanding of the scene context. Our pipeline is as follows. We first cluster frames from the original video into discrete events based on low-level features such as color histograms. Now, some of these may be transition events where the person is moving from one scene to another, and others may be stationary events that take place within a single scene. We're planning to train a classifier in order to distinguish between these two, and then fast forward through the transition events. But for now, for each event, we perform feature matching in order to find groups of frames that have strong correspondences, and then we combine these into single-stitched frames that we call ego stitches. One interesting challenge here that we're continuing to explore is how to handle the dynamic content during the stitching. But for now, something like a panorama stitch is able to provide a reasonable working solution. So once we have these candidate ego stitches for each event, we rank them based on features such as their spatial coverage and their size. And in the future, we're also planning to incorporate higher-level semantic cues such as human and object detection. Then finally, we select the best ego stitch for each event to be included in a video summary. As some additional benefits, the spatial localization that we obtain from ego stitching will also enable future work such as reasoning about the spatial locations and the objects where the person paid particular attention, and then we can overlay these on top of the ego stitch. And we can also obtain super resolution images from combining multiple frames. So here's an example of an ego stitch generated using our method. Up on top, you can see the frames from the original video, and you can see that the camera moves around from the friend sitting across the table to the food on the table. The image here on the left shows the pairwise registered frames that were combined to create the ego stitch, and then the image on the right is the final ego stitch with bundle adjustment and blending. This is another example, this time in a pizza restaurant. And again, you can see that the final ego stitch is able to provide a much more comprehensive view of the scene. And finally, this is an example of a summary for one of the egocentric videos in the challenge. Each of these images here is the ego stitch corresponding to an event in the video. And if you've seen the original video, you can observe here that the ego stitches are able to deliver significantly more content than corresponding single frames from the original video. Thank you.